What you've just captured, Nalini, is the crux of, what will finally sort of pave the way for an order, hopefully from the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court is asking, it's firing back those questions and saying there are two situations. Let me quote what the Supreme Court bench is asking. They're saying, we all agree that they're saying there are two situations. One where the Speaker of the Maharashtra Assembly has actually passed orders of disqualification, and the other where it is pending. The situation we have here is that it's pending because it's before the Supreme Court, where the Speaker has initiated the process, but someone has approached the court questioning the very power of the Speaker. In this situation, also, are you pressing on the deemed disqualification? To which Abhishek Manu Singhvi, representing the Uddhav Thackeray government, says, had this court left it to the Speaker to decide, it would be the Speaker's choice. But here the Speaker has been interdicted or intercepted. The person who is facing disqualification cannot have it both ways. On the one hand, the disqualification process is stopped. On the other hand, they are taking advantage. Remember, the people that Abhishek Manu Singhvi is talking about are these people who are sitting at the Guwahati airport ready to board a flight and fly all the way to Goa, which brings them to just about 400 kilometers from Mumbai, where, as things stand, that floor test is going to take place tomorrow. The Uddhav Sena and the Maha Vikas Aghadi Sarkar is hoping that the Supreme Court listens to their plea and puts a hold on this floor test that has been ordered. It all comes down to the issue of the attempted disqualification of at least 15 MLAs of the Shinde Sena. They're all with Eknath Shinde at this point of time. Nalini, stay with me. Mosmi, stay with me. Ritwik Bhalekar continues to be with us. Ritwik, any more updates coming in from that cabinet meet? Okay, I think Ritwik can't hear me, so we'll try and get that audio link sorted out with him in just a moment. But quickly wanting to recap for you. Please, viewer, pay attention to the text at the top of your screen, because that's a live stream of what's happening inside court. So even if I don't mention it, you'll see it right over there. Why are you insisting on disqualification, says the Supreme Court to Abhishek Manu Singhvi, counsel for Uddhav Thackeray's government. Singhvi says the rebels can't have it both ways. You cannot have it both ways, because this issue of disqualification is pending right now before the Supreme Court, and therefore the argument is that while that issue is being decided, you can't have a floor test, because there cannot be retrospective invalidity of votes of MLAs who are currently deemed to be qualified but later possibly disqualified. That's the basic argument that Abhishek Manu Singhvi is putting before the court. But the Supreme Court is firing back and saying, why are you insisting on disqualification? The pending disqualification, and I'm repeating this over and over again because that goes to the core of the plea by the Uddhav side at this point of time, is that since the disqualification issue is pending, you cannot allow this floor test to happen. That's the core of what is happening. Very important update coming in from inside court. Abhishek Manu Singhvi argues that the disqualification applies as on the date of the complaint, not the date of the decision of the Assembly Speaker. He's basically saying that if this floor test is allowed, then the very objective of the disqualification proceedings will be defeated, and says that the court has basically interdicted the Speaker's proceedings. Break this down for us, Nalini. This last bit, Singhvi says, the disqualification applies as on the date of the complaint, not the date of the decision of the Speaker. And if this floor test is allowed, then the disqualification proceedings themselves are completely defeated.
Yes, Shiv. The point that Abhishek Manu Singhvi is trying to make over here is that on Monday, when the first hearing happened before the Supreme Court, if the Supreme Court had not interfered in the disqualification proceedings and allowed for the disqualification proceedings to continue, because remember that day 5:30 p.m. was the deadline when the MLAs had to respond to the Deputy Speaker, but because there was an extension that was granted by the Supreme Court, they weren't bound to do so anymore. So what Abhishek Manu Singhvi is saying, that if the Supreme Court at that time had not interfered in the disqualification proceedings, then right now the floor test would not have been ordered itself, because the issue of disqualification would have been deciding. The second point that Abhishek Manu Singhvi is raising is that because the question of disqualification of these 16 MLAs is already in question, and that point that you are making, what he's saying is that the complaint was made even before the floor test was ordered. So you have to consider it from the date that the complaint was made, not from the date when the Speaker will finally decide as to whether or not these MLAs should be disqualified. Because remember, Shiv, there is no time limit that has been given for the Speaker to decide on a disqualification issue.
Yes.
The Speaker can stretch it out for as long as he wants, depending on which political side he affiliates with. So keeping that in mind, what Abhishek Manu Singhvi is saying, that you need to decide it from the day that the complaint for disqualification was made, not the day that the Speaker takes the final decision. And because the complaint was already made beforehand and the notice was issued to all of these 16 MLAs, you can officially say that the disqualification proceedings are underway. Now, when their membership itself is in question, their membership in the Legislative Assembly itself is in question, how can they be allowed to vote for the floor test? And the reason why he's saying it will become infructuous is
Nalini,
because
just hold on to that thought for just a moment.